Hey, 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 it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. So, this is a Diddy update. If you guys were not aware, a superseding indictment was filed. What is a superseding indictment? I am basically going to tell you guys. So, I don't know if you guys remember when when he was last president, I'm referring to Donald Trump. He actually took classified documents with him to his home in Florida. And so he was actually charged. And after some new evidence and new information that came in, new charges was actually filed. So that is what is, in a sense, superseding indictment. So pretty much it's just a document that amends and replaces the original indictment, just listing all of the formal charges, and that's what we're going to see on here against the defendant. Um, in these cases, usually a grand jury typically approves the superseding indictment after additional information or evidence has been attained. And the new document will actually add the additional charges or defendants if need be in the case. And so in this one, you're going to hear similar things, but there are additional things that has been added. So I'm going to actually read the superseding indictment, and then I'm going to read the government's letter that pretty much dumbs down exactly what they added to the superseding indictment. So let's hop right on into it. I'm going to get through this fairly quickly, all right? So, count one, racketeering conspiracy. So, for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, ex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. I'm not going to keep reading his aliases, but Sean Combs, the defendant, operated his businesses headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. At all times to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse was at all times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of the pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performances and sexual activity with Combs, and at all times with Combs, the male commercial ex workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial ex workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Physical abuse by Sean Combs, the defendant, was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions, from at least in or about 2009 and continuing years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. On one occasion at the Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attacked to bribe I'm sorry. Combs attempted, there we go, to bribe the staff members to ensure silence. Subsequently, Combs, with the assistance of several close associates, paid hotel security staff $100,000 for the hotel's surveillance footage of the assault. Sean Combs, the defendant, used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial acts. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistant, and high ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Let's talk about the Combs enterprise. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024, Sean Combs, the defendant, and others, known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, X trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotic offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 1961, Paragraph 4. That is, a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, the defendant, entities within the Combs businesses, included but not limited to Bad Boys Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global. Individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business, and others known and unknown. The Combs enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs enterprise. The Combs enterprise was engaged in and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. The Combs enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs was the leader of the Sean Combs enterprise. Sean Combs and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs enterprise affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high ranking supervisors, as well as other associates of Combs. And I'm wondering if eventually they will be brought up on charges, or they're just, going to go after Diddy because he is the one who created all of these entities. Interesting. Purpose of the Combs enterprise. So, the purpose we have operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Jones. I'm about to say Sean John. Sean Combs, a musician, entrepreneur, a figure in the entertainment industry. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs Enterprise, including the power of its leader Combs through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial ex workers. Enabling Combs and others and associates of Combs Enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, sexual violence, ex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purpose of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes, and concealing the commission of such acts. Securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including those acts of violence and threats, and protecting the Combs enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by the members and associates of the enterprise. So, all of that is what they're saying the purpose of each of those entities: Bad Boys, Combs Global. All of this is the purpose of that entity. The means and method of the enterprise. Among the means and methods of Sean Combs, and other members and associates of Combs Enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of affairs of the Combs Enterprise, including the following. Combs and other members and associates of Combs Enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to the three female victims, mm, to engage in commercial X acts. In connection with the commercial X acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. Some of the commercial X acts involved male commercial X workers and were referred to by Combs as, among other things, freak offs. Freak offs were elaborate and produced X performances that Combs arranged, directed, and, ooh, pleasured himself during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak offs, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial X workers across state lines and internationally. Freak offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial X workers. During the freak offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in X acts with commercial X workers. After freak offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical assertion and drug use. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak off to try to negate room damages, arranging for travel for victims, commercial ex workers, and Combs to and from freak offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial ex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. Y'all have to realize this is stuff that they already have. They have the evidence and the information. That's how they are able to amend this indictment. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Other commercial acts involved only Combs and a female victim. As with freak-offs, other members and associates of the Combs enterprise assisted with arrangement for these commercial acts, including by arranging travel and accommodations for victims. At times, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, transported and caused to be transported victims across state lines and internationally in connection with commercial X acts. Like the freak offs, the commercial X acts involving Combs and a female victim were prearranged, sometimes lasted multiple days, were sometimes electronically recorded by Combs, and often involved Combs distributing a variety of controlled substances to the victim, in part to keep the victim obedient and compliant. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak offs and other commercial acts. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promise of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. During and separate from freak-offs and other commercial X acts, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults were resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims. Combs often also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in X acts with Combs and at times with Combs and male commercial X workers. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demand without risking their financial or job security or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during freak offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of victims. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during the searches Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including three AR 15s with the face serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise enabled Combs' control over victim by following his direction regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victim's career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances Combs used to keep their victims compliant. You know what I'm thinking about? As they keep saying controlled substances. You know, Brandon Paul was the drug mule, and I believe that I forgot what the judge ruled on him, but I bet you that boy squealed like a canary. I have to go look up and see exactly what they gave him. I know he went in there singing, telling it all. Members and associates of Combs Enterprise at times witnessed Combs' violence toward the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the Combs Enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or Combs residences. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from injuries Combs inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise also assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. When employees witnesses to his abuse or others threatened Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included arson and multiple acts of kidnapping, including one instance of kidnapping during the Combs carried and displayed a firearm. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved others. On one occasion, Combs dangled a victim over an apartment balcony. What I tell y'all, all these civil suits that are coming out, it just adds, it's the fuel to this fire. It's just going to add. They're going to take all the evidence that is collected in those civil suits and use it in this criminal case. When Combs' authority and reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, following public allegations of Combs' crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay quiet or stay silent and not report what they experienced or knew to law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with a false narrative of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least two occasions. That's where he messed up at. The racketeering conspiracy. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs and others known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the Combs enterprise described in paragraphs 6 and 12 of this indictment, an entire an enterprise engaged in and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederate, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States, to wit, Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 1962, Paragraph C. That is, to conduct and participate, directly and indirectly, in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, as the term is defined in Title 18 United States Code, Sections 1961, Paragraph 1 and 1961, Paragraph 5. Anybody, if he called you and say, "Hey, I need you to book this worker from here to here," and it's a paper trail, and you did it, we're gonna see a lot more people go down. A lot more people go down. But here's the acts. Multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of the state law. Boy, California Penal Code 207, 21, kidnapping, I guess attempt kidnapping, aiding and abetting, conspiracy, kidnapping. Oh, all right. So we have the California penal codes. So kidnapping, attempting, I guess to kidnap, aiding and abetting, and then under the New York law, kidnapping, attempt, kidnap, conspiracy, and aiding and abetting. Multiple acts of arson in both just in California. Arson, attempt arson, aiding and abetting, conspiracy, acts in bribery, bribery of a witness, aiding and abetting, attempt conspiracy, all under California penal codes. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 of United States Code relating to tampering with a witness, victim, or informant. Also relating to forced labor. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 relating to X trafficking, relating to transportation and inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal sexual activities. Multiple offenses involving the possession and intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics and controlled substances, including cocaine, oxycodone, or I think that's how you say it. Alphas, I don't even know. Meth, I'm assuming this is meth because this is too, yeah. All of this, GHA, ketamine, methamphetamine. Well, I thought that was oh my gosh. All of this right here. Distribution and possession with intent to distribute and conspiracy to do the same. Aiding and abetting and willfully causing. Whew. It was a part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs agreed that a conspirator would commit at least two acts of racketeering in the conduct of affairs of the Combs enterprise. And boy, a lot of people about to go down. Notice of special sentencing factor from at least in or about 2009 up to including in or about 2018. in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18 United States Code, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial X act, which is also in violation of Title 18 of the United States Code. Count one was just racketeering, y'all. Count two is X trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. This is against victim one. And I think we know that victim one is Cassie. It states that the grand jury further charges from at least in or about 2009 up and up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Sean Combs, the defendant in affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18 and any combinations of such means would be used to cause the person, aka victim one, Cassie, to engage in a commercial X act and attempted to aided and abetted and willfully cause the same, to wit, Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained victim one and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim one to engage in commercial X acts, knowing and in disregard, reckless disregard of the fact that victim one was engaging in commercial X acts as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. Count three, transportation to engage in prostitution. So from 2009 to 2024, he knowingly transported individuals in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individuals engaged in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same to. Combs transported, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims, including but not limited to victim one, two, and three, and commercial ex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. When you start crossing state lines, it's way bigger than you. It's bigger than all of us. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count one of this indictment, Sean Combs shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 any and all interests the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18, any and all interests in securities, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise named and described here in which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct of in violation of Title 18, and any and all property constituted and derived from proceeds directly obtained directly and indirectly said offense, including but not limited to a sum of money in United States currency representing the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. So pretty much with that saying, that's just like you get in trouble if you had the pow pow, right? And what do you have to do? You have to relinquish your pow pow over to the officers, right? This is what they're saying is that he got to give up this enterprise. He has to give up his enterprise. He has to turn over any monies that he has made in regards to everything that he was doing, because that's whole part of racketeering, right? You getting money, you're spending money. You're getting money and you're spending money on the wrong thing. This is like a how do I want to say it? I don't want to say like a smoke screen. You know how you see in those movies how people it's like a laundry cleaners, right? But you don't know that they're what you call it, washing money. Kind of like this in a sense. Kind of like this in a sense. But Diddy, Diddy, cut. In regards to count two, the X trafficking. Let me see. So any proceeds that he obtained directly or indirectly need to be let me see. Hold on. As a result of committing an offense. Oh yeah. So that any proceeds from that from the X trafficking got to be forfeited. What was it? Hell, I done forgot already. Transportation and engage of prostitution, X trafficking, and um racketeering. So any proceeds that he made for that, he has to forfeit those. Man, good luck. Substitute assets provision. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third person, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with the other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty. It is the intent of the United States to seek forfeitures of any property of the defendant up to the value of the above forfeitable property. So, any proceeds, any property, anything that is related to the racketeering, the X trafficking, pretty much the Combs enterprise, he has to forfeit. He has to forfeit everything. It, everything. He has to forfeit every single thing that he has according to titles. Ooh, look at all these titles. Title 18, Title 21, Title 28. So any property, any money that he has in connection with that, Diddy pretty much has lost everything. Diddy has lost everything. Real briefly, here's the letter that kind of sums up what I just read, and this is submitted to the court to Judge Subramanian. It reads that the government respectfully submits this letter regarding to the S1 indictment returned today in the above reference case by the grand jury sitting in this district. As set forth below, the S1 indictment contains no new charged offenses, but includes additional allegations in count one. The charge racketeering conspiracy and specifies certain victims related to counts 1 and 3. The government has already produced the vast majority of discovery associated with the S1 indictment and does not expect the S1 indictment to affect existing pretrial deadlines. The government respectfully requests that the defendant be arraigned on the S1 indictment at the next scheduled court conference. So he has to be arraigned again since this is a new indictment or a superseding indictment. So to kind of so as we all know, there were no new charges. Okay, it just included additional allegations to the racketeering and specified certain victims in the racketeering and the prostitution um, counts. Overview. In addition to the allegations included in the initial indictment, the S1 indictment includes the following new allegations. So these are the new allegations, and everybody's like, "Well, why didn't you just read this?" Because some people actually like for me to read it all in detail, so that's why I do it. But here are the new allegations. One, additional speaking allegations regarding racketeering activity. Two, extension of the racketeering conspiracy from in or about 2004 through in or about 2024. Additional allegations related to the means and methods of racketeering enterprise related to X trafficking, including the trafficking of three specified female victims, victims 1, 2, and 3, and certain acts of violence. 4. Additional racketeering activity involving kidnapping, which is chargeable under the New York penal law. 5. Additional narcotics and controlled substances included in the racketeering activity involving possession with intent to distribute and distribution of narcotics and controlled substances in the violation of federal law. And I think that's six, one, two, three, four, five. Yes. And number six, modification of the to wit clause in count three to include victims one, two, and three. The S1 indictment does not add any new counts or contain any subjective changes other than those outlined above. Discovery and pretrial schedule. The government has already produced to defend nearly all Rule 16 discovery related to the new allegations contained in the S1 indictment. This discovery included productions of search warrant affidavits, the defendant's own electronic devices and accounts, identified data from devices and accounts belong to third parties, and subpoena returns, among other material. In addition to the discovery already produced, now this is discovery that's produced to defense counsel. So Diddy already has all of this. In addition to the discovery that has already been produced, the government is preparing a limited discovery production relevant to counts one and three, which is the racketeering and the prostitution of the S1 indictment. Specifically, by approximately February 14, 2025, the government expects to produce additional identified data from a third party cloud account. Ooh, from which the defendant has already received identified data. The government anticipates that the additional identified data from account one will be limited in media files, video, and photographs from approximately 1 year period. The government will continue to promptly produce on a rolling basis any additional discovery material it obtains. Because remember, y'all, it was terabytes. Terabytes. That's a lot to go through. So they're giving him the discovery to review. The government does not expect the S1 indictment to affect the scheduling order entered by the court on January 8th. Arraignment and the Speedy Trial Act. The government respectfully suggests that the court arraign the defendant on the S1 indictment at the next scheduled court conference. At the December 18, 2024 status conference, the court set a control date of March 17, 2025 and excluded time under the Speedy Trial Act until that date. Under Second Circuit law, the same Speedy Trial Act exclusions under the original indictment are carried over to a superseding indictment. So pretty much nothing's going to change. Accordingly, time is excluded under the Speedy Trial Act until March 17th, 2025. So they are still on roll. They are still on time for their filings. Ooh, I am so sorry, y'all. I'm very sorry. But yeah, so that is the superseding indictment. Like I said before, it is just something where additional information or evidence have been obtained and they have to update the indictment, in which they did. So no new charges were added. It was only information was added in regards to the racketeering as well as the prostitution portion of that. Y'all let me know about this in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, you all be blessed. Bye.